Yep, first thing here in the morning. Normally, I'm a computer warrior that is going to my desk and dealing with all the stuff that happens in the protein world, but I'm fortunate enough that my desk is right here on this beautiful property that I sometimes get to go enjoy by Bug and Mark, our ranch manager, who raises all the wonderful Wagyu that you guys consume. So, let's go check out what he's doing. For that one cabin in there. What's up? Which one's that? Oh, geez. Man, that's bizarre for a Wagyu calf. Oh, did you? Okay, so you got full-blood Wagyu cows. You can tell, right? You almost got one in the same frame right here. This is a full-blood Wagyu calf right here. It's friendly because Mark gave it a bottle for a couple days, so it's looking for some milk, versus the size of a show calf behind us that's 2 weeks old. That's part of the reason why Wagyu is so expensive, because they are such a small frame cow, and then you're feeding it out to this size. I gotta watch myself here before old girl goes looking for some milk in a place that doesn't exist. So this calf back here is about the biggest I've ever seen come out. This red one here, it was about that size when it came out, and you can see the where it's shaved there. We had to take it to the vet because it actually had a hernia. So they put it down and opened up its belly and sewed up the hernia. That was about a week and a half ago. Kind of crazy how much more resilient these animals are than us. I'd still be in a lot of pain. We're heading up here to this middle pasture. The difference between these two paddocks is these are all spring calving. These are all fall calves that we're actually converting to spring calves. We don't like fall calving on our property. Everybody does it different. I'm sure internet warriors will tell me how you should fall calve in Missouri. Yeah. So you got a couple of the full-blood Wagyus in here that are a bit younger, like this one here with the orange tag. You can tell when they're standing next to one of these big show calves just how much smaller they are. Then the show calves that are in this one, these are actually ones that Mark and a couple other guys are in the process of breaking them on the harness, getting them trained up so they can go show them.
The basis on show cattle is phenotypically, they're probably superior to most other animals, especially Wagyu. Now, I tell everybody that comes out here, I said, those are the good-looking ones, and the Wagyu are the good-tasting ones. So there's a little bit of a difference. I mean, to be honest with you, it's a little bit of a pride deal. It's like youth sports. You want your kid to win and be the best on the steer side of it, and on the female side, it's no different. No matter what breed or what you're raising, like you're trying to raise females that go on down the road, and are better raised cattle that are better than them. And obviously, the bottom line is put money in your pocket. So that's kind of what we're figuring out here. That's a little bit different. That's what we're dealing with right now. We're calving, and they're obviously a little more labor intensive as far as you need to be there on the spot, because these calves are going to be bigger than Wagyu or commercial Angus calves. That's definitely it. They'll spit those things out. The only problem is there's not a lot of milk in some of those Wagyu heifers, which is a different deal. But yeah, it's for this, you don't know necessarily right away if you rung the bell or not. And so it within 30 days, you kind of know, hey, is this calf going to be marketable as a show calf or not? And we're trying to do different stuff where these cattle are obviously phenotypically good, but if worst case scenario, we're not going to get these cattle docked at the sale barn. They still got some growth and some performance in them. So then what happens is we'll work on them. We'll usually wean them quite a bit earlier than the Wagyu calves, and we'll start breaking them and washing them. And then what we'll do is, probably 9 months old, these cattle will be up for sale. There's a lot of different sale platforms. We're kind of new here with Honey Creek, so we either consign these cattle on sales or we sell them privately, which we're still navigating that. We got to see what we got for cattle first, but it the cool part is there's a little bit more risk reward in the show cattle deal. Like, I mean, you're talking crazy stupid numbers for what these things can bring, but also you could have a dud that you got a lot of money in too. So it's not always perfect either.
When Mark first came here, he absolutely hated Wagyu cattle. Didn't believe in the breed. He hates the way they look because they're the polar opposite of show cattle. They're small and kind of ugly framed. But ask Mark if he likes a Wagyu steak.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't think there's anything that compares. And so, a year ago, we kind of made a decision to diversify a little bit. Because we're obviously set up in the hills here in Missouri, and we're not capable of feeding out 300-400 head of Wagyu fats. So if we can raise, top of the line, high percentage, full bloods, pure bloods for Pat and KC Cattle, Valor Provisions, that sweet spot number for us is 40 to 50 annually, and try to do it as good and as good as we possibly can. It's a little harder on seeing a picture, and I haven't seen them in person, but I gotta believe 8.
Thank you, Mark. Where you heading next?
I'm going north.
Okay. Wagyu is like one of the only horned animals. Like, yeah, okay, you talk about short horns or long horns down in Texas. They're raised specifically for their horns, especially in this weird market where people just want to buy their heads. But Wagyu are actually horned cattle. They're probably the biggest horned cattle breed in America right now. But you can kind of tell the difference here if you look at one of these show calves, like this white face one right here. It's pulled on the top, right? It's got that tuft of hair with kind of a cone-looking thing on the top of its head. That's because it doesn't have horns. But if you pan over to this orange tag right here and you look at the top of its head, and we'll see if we can get a better angle on it. Or you can look at that one standing behind it that's got its head popped up right there. You can see the little nubbin on the side of its head and how it's got kind of a flat top. That's because it's horned. And we knock those off when they're brand new calves. It's pretty brutal, and if you're talking to PETA or whatever, they definitely would be up in arms about it, but we do it for the animal safety, because if they had these big long horns and they're doing what they're doing right now and they're eating, they'll do this thing when any other animal's getting close to it where they throw their head back and forth to get them to, make space for them to eat. And they'll actually knock each other's eyeballs out. And then on top of that, if you get an animal that's more aggressive, which definitely happens during calving season, it can get pretty dangerous for the people trying to work the animals. So that's why we do it. Yeah, so all of these are Wagyu bulls right here. Better example of the horns, right? So if we're gonna keep talking about the horns, basically the way these horns work is if you don't get every single one of the cells when you dehorn them, they grow back as little nubbins. And then something people always ask too is like, you keep all the bulls together, isn't that dangerous? It's kind of like a classroom of teenage boys, right? Like you keep them together and they'll fight it out for 3 or 4 hours to figure out whoever the top bull is, and then they're fine after that. But here's a perfect example. This bull right here was top dog that's in this paddock, and we had to pull him out because he got pink eye, and Mark went down, treated him, and he tried to put him back in here, and he was top dog, but they put him, we separated him, then we put him back in, and they all ganged up on him and beat his ass. And so we had to separate him for his own safety, but that's kind of the way bulls work. It's very similar to having a bunch of horny teenage boys in one room. And If you got female cows within like 2 paddocks of this pen, which is why they're separated and over here, if you have a cow that comes in heat, that barbed wire ain't gonna stop one of these bulls from going to find her. So having bulls on your property is a real big pain in the butt, as Mark can attest. I was just talking about what a pain in the ass bulls are.
We're kind of in a different part of the Midwest where chop and silage is not existent in our area of the world. That and cornstalk bales. So we've worked with our local feed distributor, and we've came up with a ration for our Wagyu cattle. You know, and everybody wants to make it rocket science and make it super hard and adding this and that. But, you know, we've been pretty fortunate, and I think the best thing for these cattle is obviously energy. Wagyu cattle take obviously more days on feed, but they also need a lot more energy to get to where we're going. So we just switched with hopefully roughly 6 months left before our harvest date. The ration that they're on it's an AccuRation that Purina's developed. It's got a limiter in it. It's basically corn, protein pellets, cottonseed hulls, which has been really, really helpful for these cattle. They've stayed full, and we were going through, you know, I was going through it the other day on roughage. We were probably going through a bale every other day, and as we implanted the cottonseed hulls, we've seen that decrease down to maybe 2 bales a week. And these cattle have, I mean, obviously we're not taking test weights every single day, but just by general appearance, these cattle have really exploded the last 30 days. The cow side of it, you know, most of our cattle are always out on grass pasture. Winter months, you know, we're feeding them obviously hay, free choice mineral. Biggest thing is, you know, as we're calving some of these first calf heifers, whether it be on the commercial side, the, you know, show cattle side, Wagyu side, those heifers, you know, they're new to motherhood, so they take just a shot more energy. So we're just supplement feeding them. It's just basically a cracked corn, dry distillers, a little bit of protein, and nothing crazy. You know, we're not trying to fatten them up, but just give them enough energy to basically do the best job that they possibly can. Grower rations, you know, that we don't really get crazy on that as far as when these cows and calves go to grass. A pelleted creep feed is what, you know, kind of we want. We want these cattle to grow. We don't need them to get fat and stunt their growth. You know, we're obviously trying to get them as big as possible. So just kind of grow them along. And I mean, as everybody kind of knows, like the Wagyu breed's not known for milking extremely well. So if we can supplement these calves when they're alongside their mothers, you know, I think come weaning day, it really shows not only on the calves, but the cows are in good condition and breed back. And basically, you know, we're just trying to give these animals the best opportunity that they can to perform. I'm not one to knock grass-fed beef or anything. You know, everybody's got a different palate and what they like, especially in this part of Missouri. You know, fescue, ragweed, clover. You know, we're not raising like super nutrient dense grasses for these cattle to perform at a high level. So you know, not only days on feed, like we have a hard enough time getting our Wagyu cattle to finish. You know, our sweet spot's probably 28 months, and they do well. I mean, other people are pushing them to 30, 32 months. But I can only imagine if I kicked them out on the hills here, especially in the heat in July, August, September, those things would melt. You know, I always tell everybody is like, if I wanted grass-fed beef, I'd just shoot a deer and eat it that way. That's kind of what I think. But you know, we're doing it at a higher level, like, and I'm not saying we're at a higher level than anybody else, but we're, you know, if you're raising Wagyu, it's a pride deal. You know, same thing of anything you're raising. Like, we're trying to raise the best steaks we can possible, and I feel the best way we can do that is to feed high energy and feed the right feedstuffs, and, you know, give these cattle an opportunity to outperform. And, you know, that on the same side of it, it's not like, you know, we're just going to the local sale barn and buying F1 crosses and putting them on feed and expecting these cattle to do well. Like, we've put some money into some good genetics and trusted in them. And, you know, the biggest thing in the Wagyu breed is everybody's beating each other up on numbers, this and that. And I don't get too worried about it. It's one of those deals where, you know, it's a passion deal. So, you know, we put money in 3 years ago, and now we're finally reaping the rewards, and they can beat the numbers up on these cattle and talk about what they are. But the end result's all that really matters for us. You know, we're trying to raise high quality steaks, not not sitting there looking at a sheet of paper. And so if these cattle can perform, they're doing their job, and hopefully I'm doing my job for them, I guess. So, yeah, I'll meet you guys there. You can take this.
Cool. We'll meet you down there. So he's over there feeding the bulls. Yeah, these are old tobacco barns. Okay, so a couple cool history facts about Weston, Missouri, which is where we're standing right now, is actually even the first year we moved out here, tobacco is still a very popular cash crop that people grew around here. They had a contract with R.J. Reynolds to grow it for them. They lost that the year after I moved out here, and overnight, basically all the tobacco evaporated. I think there's still 2 farms in the area that still grow tobacco, but one of the cool leftover things is, almost every property around here has one of these old tobacco barns on it. After listening to a lot of the old timers talk about what it was like being a kid in Weston and picking tobacco during the heat of summer, they had these cool barns, and we were fortunate enough that the last owner of this property actually renovated this thing top to bottom, but kept the historics of it. And you have these huge rafters in here, and so they'd pick the tobacco by hand, and they still pick tobacco by hand. And they would bring the leaves up here, and then they'd have a guy that would hang up in these rafters, and they'd have a ladder up here, and they'd hand them the tobacco leaves, and they'd drape them across these rafters. And then if you look over here on the side, but you got these deals that you raise up like this, and you keep it open with one of these deals, and then you get the airflow between the 2 sides during the summer months, and it'd dry out those tobacco leaves before they brought them to market. So just one of those cool things that you don't get to see in modern America. But yeah, I mean, this barn was originally built in the 1800s, and actually the old homestead house you can still see the foundation over on this other side of the property, which is why this tobacco barn is away from my house. That house was built 100 years after this barn was, so pretty cool deal. So right here you got a baler, a John Deere baler. This is a round baler. It's their big 5-foot one. We do our own hay on our property, and we do a couple neighbors' hay. They're normally anywhere between 1,200 and 1,500 pounds when they come out. Normally hay in Missouri's still, it's like pretty cheap, right? But then you have a drought year, and it goes up to 100, 120 bucks for a round bale, and that's what happened to us. And so we're like, all right, we're just gonna go buy our own hay equipment. Well, that rake's 30 grand. That baler is about 70. The mower conditioner is about 45. So you're talking, almost 200K that you got wrapped up into baling equipment, not including the $200,000 tractor. And so then you go and buy it, and then we're not baling. Some people, this is like part of their side hustle to justify cattle, is they're selling hay, and so they'll bale 4,000 or 5,000 acres of their property and other people's property, and then they'll sell bales to local neighbors, or here in Missouri we're fortunate with our grass and our rainfall, so you'll get a lot of folks from Texas that send up semi-trailers to Missouri, and even Montana, especially during bad drought years for the West. They'll send down entire semi-trucks every week, and they'll load up an entire semi-trailer, which is about, if I remember correctly, 50 bales that they can fit on there, and they'll haul them back up, because a $40 or $50 bale down here in Missouri will go for 120, 180 bucks in Montana or Texas. So this is all like part of why this cattle market gets so jacked up. So that's what today looks like. You know, here in Weston, Missouri, on the cattle ranch. It's funny because people are always like, "Hey, what's the day in the life look like?" It's never the same. You know, if I'm being honest, I spend a lot of time at a computer. I'm like John Travolta, the urban cowboy at this point, because you know, I'm focused on the mission of Valor Provisions, which is hopefully justifying the means for ranches like this one to survive and thrive in the future. If you like what you saw today, you know, I just ask that you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and let us know what you want to see. The cool part of it is, like, a day in the life looks different based on the season, based on what's going on the farm. You know, if it's hay season, if it's calving season, if we're moving cattle or doctoring cows. If you want to see more stuff about what it looks like to do this, you know, let us know. Appreciate you tuning in. Until next time.